everyone, I thought that I would do a colour and chat style video with you today. To start with, I'm going to work in Anamorphia by Kirby Rosannes, and this is the original US version of the book, just to give you an idea of what the paper is that I'm working on. And recently you may have seen me working a little bit with the Pentel Oil Pastels 36 set that I bought recently in the Amazon Prime sale. Now that's a reasonable set of colours to get started with, 36 colours, depending on what you're going to do with them, of course. If you're going to use them as an artist and do original artwork, you probably would want some more colours, but for colouring, they are a pretty reasonable set to get started with. But I fell down a big rabbit hole because I enjoyed it so much. I decided to invest in a larger set, and I have bought the Meeden Soft Oil Pastels that are 72 colours. And they come in this rather large box. They do have a colour chart and a swatch sheet on the back of it, but you know, I'm not overly big on doing those sorts of things. They come with this nice little foam cover to help protect the oil pastels, and that is how they look. So I'm going to have a play with these today. I've had a very quick play in some other books. In fact, I'll just grab one of them for you if you bear with me a moment. I had a bit of a play with them in Alien Worlds by Kirby, and I'd already started this page, so I worked on this page a little bit more with them and starting to build some colour up, and now I have put some Workable fixative on there to see how that feels for building up colour. So I did actually use a bit of solvent to blend the colours and then let that fully dry, and then I went outside and sprayed it with some fixative. And then I had a go with this particular page here, and using a cotton bud to help me spread the colours, I've started this page here and tried to pick some of the larger areas to start building up some colour. So that was just purely playing, and I have sprayed that with some fixative. I'm not sure how, I think it's still going to come off a little bit. So that's why I put the wax proof paper, and you can see here that I purposely did sit this on here and rub at it to see how much would transfer, and that is what transferred. This is the dull side of the wax paper, that is the shiny side. So that is definitely all I've done with them so far. And today I felt like having another play, so I thought that what I might do is have a go at this page here that I've already started in Anamorphia. Let me just put these aside with that. So I've already started this with Languo gel pens, and if you're familiar with the gel pens, these are the very fine tip gel pens, and so this was not overly tedious, but it was slower because I've just worked directly on the paper and I haven't dissolved it with water or anything like that, and I had a go at blending some colours, so quite happy with that. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this as a mixed media page. I'm not sure that it's going to be a great idea, but we're going to have a go, so I thought you might want to watch as I have a go at playing, and again, not knowing what result is going to come of it, but I might keep this to the side so I can test some colour on it. It's a very tatty piece of scrap paper that's already got tests on, and you might see that I've actually taped off the edges so that I don't go right to the edge. So let's just try and get as much of the picture in here as we can. So the plan is to not go off the edge. I want to have a bit of a border and give myself some options. So I've just used washi tape, and I'm going to, I'll get started on this side and we'll see how we go. And I'm not sure, greens, blues, maybe go for something that's a little bit different in the background just for something different. Maybe let's go for maybe a pinkish coral colour. Now these do have numbers on them, but they don't have names, colour names, so I might go for that, and a bit of a peachy colour, and I'd like maybe something in between. Okay, so I've fallen right down this rabbit hole of oil pastels, and I didn't think I would. I think a couple of videos ago when I found the old set that was my son's, the children's set, I think I said then that something to the effect of oil pastels have never really been my thing, and they haven't, but I really enjoyed playing with them. And then I got this other set here, the Pentel set, and I was having a lot of fun with those, and using them with the water-soluble oil pastels that I had, and really started to enjoy what I was doing with them. Totally surprised me, because as I say, I've not really, certainly didn't get into them when I was doing art myself. I tried dry chalk pastels, and I used to use Conte crayons and stuff like that, but all pretty much dry mediums, and I don't think I ever tried oil pastels. So what I've been doing is just having a little play with randomly working with the colours and building them up a little bit and smushing them all together. Probably a technical term for it, but I'm saying smushing because I think we all relate to smushing, but really it's just blending. And so I'm blending them quite thickly, and that's what I've really been enjoyed doing with them, and it's totally surprised me. And so I saw these Meeden set of 72, and I think they may have been on a sale, I can't really remember, but they're off of Amazon Australia. If you're interested, just look for Meeden. And so I've used some of my YouTube pennies that come in for you lovely people watching me. I've used some of that money to purchase these, and actually I've got a couple of books as well, but I won't talk about those today. So I know that I've talked about overconsumption and, you know, not having too many things. And I've been thinking about that a little bit in terms of that is really important, but I think if you are using the things that you have, you're using them and getting enjoyment from them, that's one thing. You know, that's okay. It's when you buy mindlessly and you don't use any of it and it goes to waste that is a problem. And I have come across that a little bit in the last few days. I've been rearranging things in my home. So, as many of you might remember, my adult son did live with us for a few years. And while he was living with us, his daughter, or my granddaughter, used to come and stay on a regular basis for his time with her. And so we had a room set aside just for her, and we still have that room set aside just for her. But I just needed to do some changes with furniture, So she had outgrown the bed that we had for her in there, so that has now been moved on to a friend who has a very young grandchild, and they will get use out of that bed now. And the bed that was here in the studio is a day bed that can be opened up and made into a big queen size bed if you need it. But otherwise, as a day bed, it's like a very large single bed. So that has been moved into the room my granddaughter uses, and I have now got an excess of space in the studio, or the room I use as a studio space. And we have plans, my husband and I are going to do some painting. I've chosen a really lovely, very old-fashioned sort of sage green for the walls. I want to turn this space into pretty much a little haven that I really enjoy coming to and spending time in. So we have plans to paint when the weather warms up a little bit, and we're going to paint and rearrange the room a little bit. So in doing the changes that I've already done, I came across a few things that had been, shoved to the back of drawers or in odd places because there was nowhere else to put them. And I found some alcohol markers that had barely been used, and there was a number of them that have dried up. And I don't know, because they were cheap ones, they're not branded, well-known branded alcohol markers. So because they were really cheap ones, I don't know whether they came to me that way, that some of them were not working. And because I didn't use them straight away, I don't know that. Or whether they've dried up while they've been sitting in the cupboard. And it's probably no more than maybe 2 years maximum that I've had them. Not even that amount of time, I don't think. It is difficult to get into these tight spaces. But, it was a valuable lesson that, you have to use your stuff when you first get them, because if there is something wrong, by the time you come to use them, you can't send them back. You can't get replacements or a refund. So it's really important that, you use the stuff that's coming into your house straight away. Make sure that they're working. Pardon me. And, you could say, well, it's no big deal. They weren't very expensive, but that's not the point. It's the wastefulness of it that, is a problem. So I actually sat down yesterday and I have gone through all my random markers that I had in a tub that I've had for some time, and I worked out what was working and what wasn't. And most of the markers that were in there that weren't working actually had been used up. I'd run them dry, but I was hanging on to them in case I ever got round to buying refills and, using the marker, the barrel. Anyway, I've decided that for some of them that's not worth doing and keeping, so they have been put aside to go and recycle and get rid of those. And I now have all my random markers in a big plastic tub, and I know that all of them work. So if I choose to get that tub of random colours out, I know that they're all going to work. And my plan is to, particularly when I'm not doing a demonstration for you here on video, because some of them are very old, they might not even be available anymore. So when I'm colouring alone, my goal is to try and reach for those colours and get them used up. And then I do have one rather large set of markers that was only a cheaper set bought in a sale that is there when I need to access new colours. And I've got my Ohuhus. Some of my Ohuhus have started to run out, and that's through use. That's not drying up for lack of use, but they have actually been used. Pardon me. And I'm going to consolidate my collection of markers. So what I've been doing with the oil pastels is I've actually been using cotton tips or cotton buds, and I've been using these because I've got a container on my table, so they're easily accessible, but you could just as well use paper blending stumps. And this is helping me get into these little tight spaces here. And what I'm thinking is, you know, the grass will probably be or this foliage will be a deeper colour. So anything that goes over the lines I'll be able to try and disguise. But the goal is to try and avoid going over the lines as much as I can. But I don't know if you can see on camera just how easily these colours are blending together. They're like colouring with butter. They're not as easily moved and blended as the gel crayons are, which I've really been enjoying as well. But they are much more opaque and dense, and I'm really enjoying the tactile nature of blending this thick, goopy oil pastels together. And what I'm liking about it is that, you know, you can have a go at working thickly with them, and you can get all this texture, and you can move the colours into each other and kind of make them look a little bit like an oil painting. And I have never oil painted in my life. So, you know, I'm saying this quite loosely. If you are an oil painter, you're probably laughing what I'm saying now, but I've never done any oil painting in my life, but it's reminiscent of the look of that to me. And I was thinking, you know, if I can achieve that with a really simple method like this in a colouring book, it's giving me the same experience and sensation in a way that is much more convenient. So I haven't got all the cleaning up of brushes, you know, the smell of linseed and different mediums that you need with oils to mix things, and the oil paints themselves can be rather strong in odour, and that's not suitable for everybody. And I do have respiratory problems. I suffer a lot with sinusitis, and I have asthma. You know, so I'm very conscious about things that are going to affect my breathing a lot. So I just thought that this was a really different experience to what I have been having in my colouring books. And I haven't actually done too many pages that have been completely in coloured pencils for some time now. I think the last time I did one was in colouring the Lost in Time colouring book for the channel, and that's the R.J. Hampson Lost in Time colouring book. And I've done a few pages with different types of pencils in there for demos, but I haven't really enjoyed doing a full page in coloured pencil for quite some time. And I don't know whether this is just the novelty of working with something different that's appealing to me so much, and how long this particular phase is going to go through or last, but I've decided to run with it while I'm enjoying it. And the reason that I've decided that is that again, the things that I've bought, you know, I think these were the Pentel ones here was like $7 or something, and I can't remember, but I think these were about $34, something like that, for 72 colours. So the money investment isn't huge. They're not going to take a lot of space because they lie quite flat, so I can find space for storage for them. And besides a little bit of solvent or cotton buds and things, I don't need anything else. I do already have some Workable fixative that I've been trialling with it, and I'll let you know how that goes. But I thought it through, and I thought, you know, if I don't like them, it's something that I can do with my granddaughter as she gets older. Because she started showing quite a bit of interest in her art classes at school, apparently. She's always liked colouring with me, but apparently she's been really enjoying art. And the teacher said that she's quite engaged during, you know, art classes. So oil pastels is something that, you know, children can really get into quite easily because they are very easy to use. And I believe that children are a lot freer at trying new art mediums than what us adults can be. So I'm just trying to avoid going over the lines too much. I think it can be cleaned up, but, you know, just to be careful won't hurt in case that I can't tidy it up too well. And you can feel that that's quite sticky, so I'm thinking I might need a little bit of wax paper to put, you know, rest my hand on at times if I need to. So, and I might just go and get the paper blending stumps that I have. So So I've had these from back in my time when I was creating original art and drawing, you know, portraits and life drawing and stuff, and I was using chalk pastels and other things. So I've got a range here that some were very cheap from Montmartre, other ones were dearer that I bought through the art store, and you can get these little boards that have sandpaper sheets on there. And when you've got excess colour on there, for example, you can give your paper stump a little rub on the sandpaper and clean them off. And that's how you can keep using your paper stumps for a longer time. But as I mentioned, these ones that I got from Montmartre were very, very cheap. And I feel quite okay about, you know, using them up and replacing them pretty easily. So they come in all different little sizes. Now, the correct name for them is, I think it's pronounced torchon, Tortillon. So that looks like a French word, and I think it's something like a torchon is how you pronounce it. And they come in all these different sizes. So let's just have a go. See, that is a lot easier to get into these very tight spaces than what the cotton bud was. And I think, I'm not 100% sure because this is all very new to me. And I'm yet to go and have a look in the art store. I want to go into the art store that's not too far from me and have a look at things like fixative and how to seal it and so on, I want to talk to somebody in the art store and get their recommendations. I know I can Google it, and I'm sure that there's going to be somebody who can give me their opinion or tell me what they think in the comments. But I'd really like to go and talk to somebody at the art store, because I know that at this particular art store they employ working artists, and they also employ art students who are looking to, you know, fund their way through art school. So these are people who are actually working with the stuff that they're selling, and I like to get their recommendations, and they've been really helpful to me in the past. So I want to make some time to go and visit the art store, and also I've been having a look at some stuff on Amazon, and it doesn't look to be any cheaper than what I can buy in store. The only real benefit, I guess, is that I can have it delivered to my door tomorrow or the next day. But some of it is not any cheaper, and some of it is quite limited what I can get through Amazon Australia. Now, where you live, it may be different. I know in the States you get a lot more choice from when you're purchasing online, and you have different art stores to what we do. I have purchased through Blick before, many years ago, before Amazon took off. I would save up any money that I made through selling my art, and then I would wait until I had enough to get a decent order worth paying for the shipping, and I'd get things sent to me from Blick, but the shipping was horrendous. And I've had somebody recommend something that came from Michael's, but Michael's won't ship to Australia as far as I'm aware, or they never used to. So I know it's difficult sometimes for people who are in the US to realise just how limited it can be for some of us in other countries, that we don't have the range. So we're limited in the choices of the producers, or the range of stuff that we can actually access easily. And the cost can be very prohibitive at times. So art materials in general in Australia are a lot more expensive than in the US. And I think even some things in the UK are a lot cheaper than here. I can't speak to other countries because I've never travelled, other than the UK, and I have family in the UK. I travelled to Switzerland, and art materials were quite expensive in Switzerland. When I did the currency exchange rate, they, in Australian money, it was quite expensive. So I can only speak to the experience that I have, and that is, what I've experienced. So let's see if I can just clean some of that off. I'll get a clean cotton tip. There's a little tiny bit on the top of the Languo. It is coming off, but it's a little bit iffy. I might have to tighten up some details there later. And I'll be interested to see what the Workable fixative does with the Languo gel pens. So what I'll be doing is, once I've finished this page, I'll go off and spray some Workable fixative onto there, and then let it dry thoroughly before I come back and work on the other half. and I'll see how it has reacted with various things before I decide how I'm going to proceed on that other side. And if this doesn't work, if it goes badly, I'm not too upset. This picture here is not something that is particularly, precious to me, so I'm quite happy to sacrifice it. I'd rather it did, I would like it to go well. I'd be lying if I, made out like I wouldn't want it to go well. I do want it to go well. But if it doesn't, what I learn from experiencing all of this will be very valuable for other pages, and this will be one that's not going to upset me, to sacrifice it. And one of the reasons for that is that I do actually have a second copy of Anamorphia. Amazon recently had it on a really, really cheap deal, and it is the non-US version, so the UK version or Australian version. So the paper is a bit different in it, but knowing that I have that second copy there also helps me to be a little bit more free and easy with my experiments in this one. So I bought that recently. I can't remember if that was in the Prime sale or it was around the time of the Prime sale. And I think because they were, pardon me, promoting the new 10-year celebration book for Kirby is being released later this year, and they were starting to promote that. I think that might be why some of his older books have been, temporarily marked down. So I think I got it for something like $9 or $10 Australian, something like that, which is quite cheap, for a quality published book. So I've quite enjoyed colouring in this book, and I thought that having that second copy will be really handy to start doing some more different experiments and so on. Plus some of these I've enjoyed enough that I'd like to have a second go at colouring them, because some of the pages in this book were coloured quite some time ago, and I think I'd do some things a little bit differently now. So I've smeared onto there. So let's see if a eraser will get that off. I do need a new little eraser in here. So yeah, some of that does erase off, which is good to know as well. And you can get right into the centre of the book with these. So why am I enjoying these so much? Well, I think it's because recently I've been very focused on process over results. And what that means to me, I'm talking again, from a personal perspective. So for me, what that means is I'm focusing on what do the mediums feel like. So what does it feel like when I'm colouring with a pencil? It's feeling tedious and cumbersome and not really very enjoyable, but what does it feel like when I'm colouring with this? It's feeling really nice, I'm enjoying the texture. I'm enjoying watching how the colour blends. I'm enjoying just the whole, you know, feeling of the it's a little bit more abstract. So although I'm trying to be careful here with all of these details, the actual blending of the colour is very abstract. I'm liking this working back into very heavy applications of the oil pastel. I'm actually enjoying what that feels like to be moving it around. It's not perfectly blended, you know, it's mimicking those really thick applications of oil paint that the old painters used to do. So it's a completely different end result to a coloured pencil or a marker or an alcohol marker that has got such a smooth graduated blend where the colours seamlessly blend into each other and it's completely smooth, almost like, you know, you're looking at an airbrushed image or a digital image. I think that's what it's, yeah, I think that's what it's coming down to for me a little bit, is that some of the ways that I was colouring, I was attempting to mimic things that I see on screens. Because we spend so much of our life looking at screens, whether it be, you know, our phone, our iPad, a computer, the TV, whatever. But all of the images that I've been looking at on screen are very flat, very I'm trying to search for the right word for it. Characterless almost. You know, there's a sameness about so many things these days, a regularity that and please don't be offended or take me wrong, but almost too bland. There's a sameness about everything that we look at, that, and especially now that AI is infiltrating just about every aspect of our life, but particularly in a visual arts sense. You know, this seamless blending of pixels, and I don't quite know how to describe it, but it kind of gives me a feeling of the Stepford Wives, you know, that slightly unnerving sense of unreality. And this is no disrespect to anybody in the way that they like to colour or draw or paint or anything, because, you know, again, I'd like to just stress that all of these subjects are very subjective, so it's very personal to the person, and we all like different things. And just because I like a certain art style does not mean that the other art styles are wrong or incorrect or lacking. I'm talking about, you know, what is appealing to me, and in a few months' time something completely different might appeal to me too. You know, these feelings and thoughts and what have you are not static, they continue to change. So I'm really liking how that, you know, looks. I just want to go for maybe a lighter colour now and just bring a little bit of lighter colour in, and let's see how that blends on top. But I hope that you can see up here. Let me check that you're on camera. But can you see how textural and chunky and You know, it might not stay that way, but I'm having fun applying it that way. And I didn't think I'd ever say this because I'm someone that doesn't normally like getting their hands too dirty, but I'm even enjoying blending it with my fingers a little bit, which allows me to leave some of that chunky textural lumpiness there to it. You know, so you can do all of these sorts of things with the oil pastels that I haven't discovered with anything else yet. And also you can scrape into that. So let's try this silicone tool here on the end of this brush, but you can that might have not been the cleanest, but you can use different things to help you, you know, blend things together. It's a very tactile, active, active sort of creativity, which, you know, sometimes I like to sit in a chair with a box of markers or even just a few markers to hand, or the, you know, gel pens or something that are very easy to control. And I am quite happy to sit there and block colour and do stuff like that. I have moods where, you know, I like particularly with these snakes here with the gel pen, I'm actually very happy to do block colouring at times, flat colouring with no shading, you know, no nothing. You know, I have moments that I want to do that. Then I have other times when I can sit at my table here. I might just use an old one here, and I'm going to take the cotton off so that it's, you know, just like the stick. And, you know, you can play around with putting patterns back in, scraping things. You know, when it's thick, you can scrape back. You could play around with colouring the surface first with maybe watercolour or something, or a marker, and then lay applications of really thick oil pastels on, and then scrape back into it. You know, get lots of texture. If you've ever watched Cat and Paste with her Crayola crayons, you know, she does that with her Crayola. She builds colour up and she scrapes back into it, and, you know, she really makes it a very textural, complex sort of surface rather than just flat colouring. What did I do with that lighter colour? Did I put that away? So I guess, you know, see, that might be nice to have some little round sort of, do it that way. It's a much more active, creative way to put colour down than just sitting with a pencil or a marker. And as I say, that's not to rubbish pencils or markers. They have their place and their time too. And I am more than happy to sit with mine when the mood, you know, that's all I want to do. I want to listen to an audio book, or I want to, you know, have one eye on the TV, watch a TV show while I'm sitting colouring. And so I want my colouring materials to be something that I can control, that I've got full control over. I can expect a certain result and, you know, achieve that result without too much thought. And then these times, I mean, I would never sit on the couch the sofa in front of the TV with these oil pastels and work like this. It just wouldn't happen. But today I've got time to spare. I can sit at my table and I've got plenty of space. I've got good light. I've got the house to myself. It's nice and peaceful, and I can play. And I can see, you know, possibilities for different things. So I'm not saying, you know, one way is better than another way. Pardon me. I hope that I never come across that I'm doing that, because that really is not how I approach any creativity, let alone colouring. And I certainly do not wish to ever make it sound like, you know, I think somebody's doing it the wrong way, because I really don't feel like there is a wrong way to be creative, and especially in a colouring book. I mean, you know, I say it over and over again, but I mean, a colouring book is for us. It's not for anybody else, and it's not for anybody else to judge whether what we're doing in our colouring book is right or wrong. And yeah, I hope that some of this has made some sense. I find when I'm using this very creative part of my brain, all my energy and concentration is going onto the page here, and not necessarily the words that I'm saying. So I'm sorry if some of this has been a little bit stilted and a little bit rambly, but it is difficult sometimes to put into words fully what I'm thinking, but also while I'm thinking about what I'm doing here on the page, it's difficult to think about what's being said. So anyway, I think I might leave that there for now. I will spray some fixative and let it dry thoroughly, and come back to you and let you know what I thought about that. Okay, I shall see you soon. So I thought I'd share some observations with you before I finish up this video. So I did go away and I sprayed this side with Workable fixative, and this side hasn't got any fixative on it as yet. The Workable fixative didn't affect the Languo gel pens that I had already worked with, and they were well and truly dry. They were used like a week or so previously, so they were well and truly dry. The fixative didn't bother them at all. But the oil pastel here is extremely thick. I have laid it down very, very thickly. I'll lift it up so that you can have a look, maybe, if I can get the camera to focus on this properly. Let's have a look here. Yeah, you can see all the thickness and the texture and everything that I've got going on there. So it is rather thick on the page, and it will continue to move until it's sealed or fixed properly, and the Workable fixative is not doing that. So I will look into other methods of sealing it. I believe golden satin glazing liquid will do that job, so I'll look into that anyway. I'll ask in the art store, I think. So I did continue to do this page here. So that page, I've done the background as well, apart from that one little area I've forgotten in there. And yeah, I like the way it looks. I think if I work out what the best method of fixing it will be for me, that I'd like to do that as backgrounds in colouring books more often. I think I might also try maybe having a go with working in a sketchbook as well. And also what I did with this page is put the washi tape, geez, words are hard today, put the washi tape around the border so I didn't get too close to the edge, and I like the finish that's given that. So I do like when things go past borders, so I am quite happy with that look as well. So I will continue to work on this page further. But I also wanted to show you some other pages that I've been doing. So what I'm going to do is, I won't close this one up for now, but I will move it out the way. And I wanted to show you a couple of others that I've been playing with as well. So this book here is Denise Klett's Fairies in Dreamland. And this is a book that confounds me a little bit because there are a lot of open spaces and backgrounds and very small detailed areas, you know, in the middle of the page. So, and I found that water-based mediums aren't necessarily great on this paper. They don't tend to move and blend as well as I want. So I had actually had a go with the water-soluble oil pastels on this page first using a baby wipe, and it didn't really work as well as what I had hoped that it would. So I've actually used a layer of, or several layers of oil pastel now over the top of the water-soluble oil pastel, and I've also put some base colour down here on these flowers. And yeah, it is still coming, despite being fixed, it's still coming off. So that Workable fixative I've got is definitely not doing the job. So that's a base layer to work up other layers on top of. And here I've started to build different colours up to work on that flower and this one here. Obviously the fairy and the bedding and everything is going to be way too small and detailed for me to use oil pastels with, but what I'm hoping is that if I fix all of this, I will work with something else in those other areas. But I just really wanted to use this page as a test page as well, because I wasn't happy with what the water-soluble oil pastels had done in the background there. You can see here that I was doing a few little testers on this side as well. There we go, that's a bit better. So yeah, I just wanted to have a little bit of a play and try and do the beginnings of an abstract background behind her of foliage, and then sky and clouds and so on. So very much a test piece, but quite happy with the way that that one is coming along. And then I thought I would show you this one. This one is in the book that I bought that for a while confounded us whether it was AI generated or not, and I'm pretty sure it is now. So this is the Alice in Wonderland colouring book by Max Brenner. And because it is AI generated, I don't know if I want to colour on screen too often with it, because I'm not a huge fan of supporting AI generated colouring books myself. I would much rather support real human artists who are drawing things by hand. So I thought I'd sacrifice this page here as a bit of a play page to see a couple of things: how it would react on the Amazon printed paper, and also what might I do with a face. So I used a little bit of solvent on this, so you can't really, you can see some ghosting, but it's not stained the paper or anything like that. But I applied the oil pastel and then I used a little bit of Langridge Low Toxic Solvent on a cotton bud, and I blended some areas with the cotton bud. And then I came back later and I've laid really thick applications of oil pastel on there. And I'm going to have a bit more of a play with the foliage here. Excuse me. I want to play a little bit more with the foliage and see what sort of results I can get working a little bit more loosely, you know, less detailed. I'm covering up a lot of details there, and we'll see how opaque the oil pastel gets and so on. So very much another test page, but I wanted to have a go with a different subject. And definitely they're better on a much bigger, wide open spaces, of course, working much more loosely, less detailed. But the Q-tips and the paper blending stumps are working really well at getting into some of those tighter, smaller areas. So I've got a lot to learn, you know, being that I'm very new to using these, and particularly in colouring books. So I thought you might like to see those different results that I had got. And you know, those preliminary tests with using the Workable fixative and the results that I got or didn't get with those, with the fixative. But I'm really happy to keep playing with these for a while. So hopefully you've enjoyed watching me try a few different things with these, and putting up with me having my little rambling chat about various issues to do with colouring and art supplies and so on. So thank you if you are still watching at this point. I really do appreciate it a lot. And you may see these pages pop up sometime in the future in a completed pages, but it is the 31st of July today as I'm recording this. I don't know if I'm going to get any of these complete in time for July completed pages, but we'll see how I go. So thank you very much for watching. Take care, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye now. Okay, so a bit of a postscript. I'm back again. I've just applied a bit of colour to this snake here, and while I'm working on that, I just wanted to say that this particular snake, I've used the Pentel Oil Pastels, which were very cheap, $7 something I got in the Prime sales, so very, very, very budget priced. And the Meeden ones, while they're not that cheap, these are the Meeden Soft Oil Pastels that I've used for the background. The difference between the consistency of the two oil pastels is like night and day. So if I get one of these out, you might, I don't know if you can really see it on screen, but this Meeden one, even though this is just suggested as hobby, I think. I did see somewhere, there you go, Oil Pastels Soft Hobby. It does say that they're quite light fast, but the consistency of that compared to this one is like night and day. So for starters, you can see the size difference there. So if I make sure that I keep in focus and bring them up to the camera. This one here is almost like using a lipstick, or you know, I think I described it earlier as colouring with butter. And these ones are much harder, but you can see the size difference of the two different brands there as well. So I just wanted to mention that because, you know, if you're not familiar with some of these art supplies, then, you know, you don't know that. You don't know that just from reading a listing on, you know, Amazon, for example. So unless you go into an art store and do some comparisons, and sometimes in the art stores they have, you know, tester products, so you can at least try before you buy and feel what the consistency is like and so on. But when you're buying off of Amazon, of course, you don't have that luxury. And I know that, you know, some people don't have the access to art stores. They only buy online, and you rely on YouTubers doing reviews, and you rely on listening to people's opinions and so on to help you purchase new products or new to you supplies. So if you're not familiar with oil pastels, and I certainly wasn't, I've obviously looked at them in the art shop, and I've seen them when I was doing art classes and so on, but never having really used them before. I've only been exposed to those really basic student children's oil pastels before, which are that's what these ones feel like. They really are the sort of lower end budget, and the difference between the blendability and the feeling between these two areas is really like night and day. So you can work at these, of course, and they are blending. I can also use solvent with it to help me blend it. But I just thought it was worth mentioning to you that if you're not familiar with them and you are considering them, to keep in mind that the price might be very reflective of what sort of quality you're going to get, and maybe take the time to read some of the reviews, or do maybe a YouTube search or a Google search and see if you can look at some reviews that people have actually used them or described them, so that it will help you make your mind up whether it's something for you or not. So again, I think these very hard ones would have their place. So I think, for example, on a textured paper, perhaps they would, the textured paper would grab at it, and you would be able to work much more heavily and thickly with them. And I think they will build up. I mean, I have used them on other pages with a bit of solvent and then come back and laid extra colour on the top, and they've been fine. But when I was doing that, I hadn't actually been exposed to the pleasure of working with the softer ones that really are very buttery. But of course, when they're like that, you have less control over them. I think when a medium is a little bit more firm and hard, then you do get a little bit more control over them, and you can potentially create some detailed areas a little bit easier with harder mediums. But the softer ones really are a very tactile pleasure to work with. So I thought that I would raise that and mention that to you, because I had forgotten to do that. And what I'm doing here is obviously moving the paper every time I want to work on a different area, and that's helping me not to keep putting my hand in and smudging the other oil pastel too much. And I'm picking this up and moving it and making sure that I don't smudge it too much when I'm doing that. So just a few more little tips that, as I'm going along, more and more points to remember, or points of interest, are coming to me, because obviously it's very much a case of, until you do something, until you try something, you really don't know a lot of these things until you've experienced them. So that's another little tip as well. Whether you're using oil pastel or any other medium at all, you can't possibly know everything. until you experience it for yourself as well, because I think that reading about or watching a video and hearing about things is one thing, and it does help us make some decisions and gives us some information to base decisions on. But the true experience of working with something, you cannot fully experience it unless you're actually doing it yourself. So they do layer, and you can build up sort of a depth of colour with them, but they're certainly not doing. It's kind of like an analogy would be like working with those Meeden Oil Pastels is like working with a Prismacolor pencil, and these ones are like working with a polychromos, for example. So, that's the difference in the texture and the blendability, I guess. That's what it feels like. So these are more of a layering product that you might have to work a little bit harder at. And the Meeden are so incredibly soft that they just feel like they melt into each other. So that was just a little bit extra that I wanted to add on to the end of the video here for anybody that is still watching. Okay, I'll say goodbye again for now. Take care, everyone.